there's so many more things we can do together, and I hope that the players see that, and I'm certainly looking forward to meeting with them in the off season as we get to the next level, especially with so many great things that are going to happen in the off season into next season.
The WNBA, once riding a wave of unprecedented momentum, now finds itself in a full-blown crisis. A league that just a few seasons ago was being heralded as the future of women's sports is staring down a reality few thought possible. A collapse not just of ratings, but of relevance. The numbers are beyond alarming. Games that once pulled in hundreds of thousands of viewers now struggle to crack 5 figures. Championship matchups, once expected to break through to the mainstream, are barely registering on Nielsen's radar. Arenas sit half empty, the roar of the crowd replaced by echoes and empty seats, a haunting reminder of what the league once was and what it's rapidly becoming. Merchandise sales have nosedived nearly 60%. Social media engagement, once the WNBA's pride, has cratered to levels not seen since the early 2010s. And in boardrooms across the country, corporate sponsors are quietly reviewing contracts, searching for exit clauses. What happened? How did a league that had finally begun to break through the cultural noise now find itself fighting for survival? How does an organization that has weathered decades of apathy, budget cuts, and underestimation suddenly stare down the very real possibility of becoming irrelevant? The answer, insiders say, lies in a slow-burning disaster, now exposed by a mass exodus no one wanted to believe was real: the unprecedented flight of 3 of the WNBA's most electrifying stars to European leagues. This wasn't supposed to happen, not now. Not when the league was having its long-overdue cultural moment. Not when media rights talks were heating up. Not when investment money was finally arriving and little girls across the country were proudly wearing WNBA jerseys. But the signs were always there, hidden in the shadows, waiting for someone to connect the dots. Now, with the damage laid bare, the league is forced to confront a painful question. Was this inevitable? Could it have been prevented? Or is it already too late to save what's left? The golden era that never happened to truly grasp the magnitude of this collapse, we need to understand just how far the WNBA had come. For years, the narrative had been shifting from "can the league survive" to "how far can it go?" Ratings were climbing. Social media buzz was peaking. Young fans weren't just watching, they were dreaming. Major investment groups were circling, hungry for a stake in what appeared to be a rising empire. Talk shows, magazine covers, sneaker deals, WNBA stars were becoming household names. It finally felt like the league had broken through. But just as it seemed the WNBA had entered its golden age, it all began to unravel. A global game, a local crisis. Across the sports world, player empowerment was reshaping everything. Athletes were no longer content to take what they were given. They wanted control. In the NBA, stars moved like chess pieces, forming super teams and choosing legacy over loyalty. WNBA players were watching and asking hard questions. Why should we settle? Why are we applauded for accepting less? Why are we still told to be grateful just to be here? Meanwhile, European leagues were watching too, quietly building infrastructure, listening to what American players wanted, investing in better facilities, fairer pay, and more respectful treatment. They saw it clearly. The WNBA was undervaluing its own stars, and Europe was more than ready to capitalize. This wasn't just a few players chasing money overseas. This was a statement, a rejection of the status quo, and a warning shot that the WNBA can no longer afford to ignore. The perfect storm hits. The warning signs had been there, quiet, scattered, easy to dismiss. But when the storm finally arrived, it hit with brutal force. The whispers turned into headlines when Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark, and Lexie Hull, 3 of the most electrifying stars of the WNBA's recent rise, signed overseas. No dramatic announcement, no heartfelt farewell, just a sterile, midweek press release from a European sports agency on a quiet Tuesday afternoon in late August. 3-year contracts, undisclosed terms, immediate relocation. Just like that, the unthinkable happened. And the timing? For the WNBA, it couldn't have been worse. For the players, maybe it couldn't have been better. As the league was gearing up for its playoff push, prime time for fan engagement, executives were prepping new marketing campaigns, partnership reveals, and bold pitches about the league's future. Instead, they were blindsided. What was supposed to be a moment of growth became a public relations nightmare. What should have been a celebration of progress turned into a full-blown existential crisis. The press release didn't say much. But the silence behind it? That said everything. Fallout in real time within minutes, the first reporter tweeted the news. Within an hour, it was the top trending topic on Twitter. Within 2 hours, ESPN had scrambled an emergency panel. By the end of the day, every major sports outlet had run multiple think pieces, segments, and reaction articles. Sports radio lit up. Fan forums exploded. Reddit threads ballooned into thousands of comments. Instagram stories poured in from stunned fans. Phone lines at local team offices were jammed. The reactions came fast and furious: rage, heartbreak, betrayal, confusion. And how could they not? These weren't just any players. These were the players. The faces of the league. The reason fans tuned in. The future. Sophie's dunks had gone viral around the world. Caitlyn's jaw-dropping range had sparked comparisons to Steph Curry. Lexie's defensive grit and leadership had made her a coach's dream and a fan favorite. Together, they embodied everything the WNBA had been building: talent, charisma, marketability, and excellence. They starred in ad campaigns. They graced the covers of Sports Illustrated. They had shoe deals. They had become icons. And now, gone. Shockwaves through the culture. Fans woke up to a new reality, and it hurt. Playoff watch parties were canceled. Longtime season ticket holders demanded refunds and explanations. Message boards turned into grief groups. It felt like watching your favorite band break up at the height of their fame. Except this time, the dream wasn't just gone for the stars. It was gone for the fans, too. Parents struggled to explain to their daughters why their heroes were leaving. Youth coaches were suddenly answering hard questions about loyalty, money, and the cost of greatness. Because what do you tell a child who just saw their idol walk away? What do you say when the takeaway seems to be, even if you reach the top, it still won't be enough? Even if you're the best, you'll still have to leave to get what you deserve. The WNBA's entire aspirational narrative: work hard, be excellent, live the dream. Suddenly, painfully, I felt hollow. A goodbye that felt like mourning. On social media, the grief played out in real time. Fan pages that had tirelessly promoted the league went silent. Hashtags turned from celebration to sadness. Tribute videos flooded timelines, clips of buzzer beaters, no-look passes, and thunderous dunks, captioned simply, "We'll never see this again. Thank you for everything." The end of an era. The mood was clear. This wasn't just a departure. It was a loss. In the days that followed, the three stars sat for carefully orchestrated interviews. These weren't fluff pieces. They weren't PR fluff. They were raw, pointed, and strategic, designed to explain a decision that had shaken the foundation of a league. Sophie Speaks' her interview came first, measured, honest, and devastating. "I love the WNBA. I love what it represents. But I can't ignore the reality of my situation anymore. I'm one of the best players in the world, and I was making less than a first-year teacher. That's not sustainable. That's not respectful of my talent or my sacrifice." She painted a life most fans don't see: off-season jobs, tiny apartments, and endlessly checking whether she can afford things. "People see me on TV and think I'm rich. I was shopping at discount grocery stores and driving a used car. Meanwhile, I'm selling out arenas, and my jersey is in the top 10 in sales. Something doesn't add up." Caitlyn's truther interview followed, and if Sophie's was emotional, Caitlyn's was damning. She spoke of respect, what she saw in European clubs versus what she felt was left unfulfilled at home. "When I visited the team in Spain, they showed me what my life could be like. Personal training staff, nutritionists, sports psychologists, housing that wasn't a cramped apartment I had to share. They treated me like an elite athlete deserves to be treated, not like someone who should just be grateful to have a job." She also preempted the criticism. "People will say, I'm abandoning the WNBA, and I'm being selfish. But what about the league abandoning us? What about them being selfish by underpaying us year after year while telling us to be patient? That things will get better eventually? How long are we supposed to wait?" Lexie's heartache and realism. Lexie's interview carried grief, but also clarity. "I have maybe 5, maybe 10 years left at this level. That's it. That's my entire earning window as a professional athlete. I can't sacrifice that for sentiment. I can't sacrifice my family's financial security because people want me to be loyal to a league that hasn't been loyal to me." She choked up talking about what leaving meant for her fans and what the WNBA had meant growing up. But the message was as sharp as it got. Time is finite. Loyalty is not enough. More than speeches, an indictment. These interviews weren't just explanations, they were indictments of a system. They pulled back the curtain on issues many felt but few addressed out loud: low pay, inadequate support, unfair contracts, and a widening gap between what players bring in value and what they receive in return. These weren't surprise decisions, they were inevitable outcomes of long-burning discontent. Underlying undercurrents for years, the signs were there. Contract talks grew tougher. Players started weighing overseas options even before contract renewals. Agents were quietly dialing up European clubs. Once confidently promoted players now looked uneasy in promotional photos. Press conference questions about future plans began to elicit long pauses and evasive answers. The unrest wasn't new. It just hadn't been voiced so fully. Behind closed doors, the exodus was already in motion. Months before the headlines, player agents were quietly engaging in high-stakes negotiations with European clubs. It began subtly exploratory conversations on the margins of international events. Scouts from elite European teams showed up at WNBA games, not merely to watch the competition, but to scout potential recruits. Secret meetings followed. Hotel conference rooms in remote wings. Upscale restaurants. Non-disclosure agreements bind every party tight. European executives traveled to the U.S., faces and pitches concealed behind velvet curtains and quiet dinners. All the while, the WNBA stood largely oblivious, or claimed to. League officials later insisted they were blindsided when the contracts were announced. But insiders and skeptics point back to ignored warnings, murmurs from team owners, subtle shifts in contract talks, and hesitation where once there had been excitement. Some owners had raised alarms but were dismissed as overly cautious dreamers. They had been told European offers were mere leverage, no true star would ever walk away. That assumption, rooted in arrogance, would become disastrous. While the WNBA rested on its legacy, European clubs built offers too good to refuse. The infrastructure, the pay, the off-court support, they were building an environment many players had quietly longed for. There came a turning point. During an international exhibition game, the three stars, Sophie, Caitlin, and Lexie, discussed their situations, their frustrations, and their offers. One asked aloud, "What if we all left? What if we showed them this isn't one unhappy player, it's a systemic problem?" That pact became the point of no return. They agreed to announce together, support one another publicly, and stand united in their decision. They synchronized their contracts, shaped their messaging, and braced for backlash. They knew the stakes. They knew the world would watch, and they decided they were ready. At the core of their departure was a stark and undeniable truth: the financial chasm was irreconcilable. When the numbers finally leaked, fans winced. The WNBA's max salary hovered around $250,000, respectable in some contexts, but minuscule compared to global markets. The league average sat closer to $130,000, with many players earning far less. In contrast, Sophie's Spanish contract was said to top $5 million annually. Caitlin's Turkish deal reportedly hit $3 million per year. Lexie's Italian offer, though smaller, still promised $8 million a season. These weren't incremental upgrades. These were life-transforming opportunities. European contracts came packed with things WNBA deals rarely included: six-figure signing bonuses, tastefully furnished housing, private chefs and tailored nutrition, chauffeur transport, and a full medical and wellness staff. Endorsement deals overseas often dwarfed everything players could get at home. It wasn't just about basketball anymore, it was about security, respect, and legacy. In short, the WNBA's ceiling was no longer high enough.